My name is Karen Miller, and I am 50 years old. For most of my life, I believed I had what many women only dreamed of: a stable marriage, a beautiful home in the suburbs of Ohio, and a daughter who was the light of my life. My husband, David, and I had been married for 25 years. We built everything together, from the modest little starter apartment we had in our 20s to the spacious two-story house with the white porch that we lived in now. People often said we were the perfect family, but I know now that sometimes what looks perfect from the outside can be rotten at the core. David had always been charming. He had that magnetic personality that drew people in. He was successful in his career and finance, well-dressed, well-spoken, and the type of man who could make anyone laugh at a dinner party. For years, I admired that about him. I thought his charisma was a blessing to our marriage. I thought it made me lucky. And then there was our daughter, Emily, 22 years old and the pride of my life. She was bright, ambitious, and kind, everything I could have ever hoped for. She was preparing for graduate school, and I couldn't have been prouder of the woman she was becoming. We had always been close, the kind of mother and daughter who could talk late into the night about dreams, fears, and everything in between. She was my anchor, and I was hers. Or so I thought. But things started to change about a year ago. At first, it was subtle. David started working later and later. He said there were big projects at work, deadlines, clients flying in from New York, the usual. I believed him, because why wouldn't I? He had never given me a reason not to trust him. But then he started guarding his phone. He would take it with him even into the shower. He'd tilt the screen away from me when a text came in. His laughter changed too. I could hear it sometimes, not the carefree, deep laugh I knew so well, but a softer, almost flirtatious chuckle. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was being paranoid, that I was just tired, that maybe menopause was making me overly sensitive. I even confided in Emily once, casually, saying, "Do you think your dad's been acting strange lately?" She looked at me with that mix of annoyance and pity only a young adult can give, and said, "Mom, you always overthink everything. Dad works hard. Don't make problems where there aren't any." That stung me, but I let it go. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that I was imagining things, that our family was as intact as it had always been. But one night, everything changed. David said he was going to a late dinner meeting with a client. He left the house in his sharp navy suit, smelling of cologne I hadn't seen him wear before. Something about it gnawed at me. Hours passed. Midnight came and went, and he still wasn't home. I told myself not to panic, but my chest was tight, my palms clammy. I went upstairs to grab my phone, and that's when I noticed he had left his iPad on the nightstand. David never left his devices unattended. My heart pounded as I picked it up, my hands trembling. I told myself not to look, that I was invading his privacy, but something deep inside me screamed that I had to know the truth. I opened the messages, and there it was. Her name was Rachel. Young, beautiful, half his age. Their messages were sickening. Late-night declarations, secret plans, little inside jokes that only lovers share. He wasn't at a client dinner. He was with her. I dropped the iPad on the bed, my stomach twisting, my world spinning. 25 years of marriage, just shattered with a few lines of text on a glowing screen. My hands went cold. I wanted to scream, to cry, to smash something, but instead I just sat there in silence, staring at the wall. When David finally came home around 2 a.m., smiling like nothing was wrong, I felt something shift inside me. My trust in him was gone, ripped away in an instant. And yet, what I didn't realize at that moment was that the betrayal I had just uncovered was only the beginning. Because soon, my own daughter, my Emily, would turn against me. The next morning, I could barely look at David. My chest felt heavy, like someone was pressing down on it with both hands. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee, scrolling through his phone as if the night before had been perfectly ordinary. I watched him, trying to decide if I should scream, cry, or simply pretend I hadn't seen anything. But the words tore out of me before I could stop them. "Who is Rachel?" He froze. His eyes flickered up at me, and for the briefest second, I saw panic. Then, just like that, he slipped on the mask I had seen him wear so many times at work dinners and social events. Calm, confident, dismissive. "What are you talking about?" he said smoothly. "Don't you dare turn it on me. Don't play games with me, David. I saw the messages. On your iPad." The silence stretched across the kitchen like a noose. He set his mug down carefully, too carefully, and leaned back in his chair. "So you went through my things?" His voice was sharp now, laced with accusation. "God, Karen, do you have any idea how crazy that makes you sound?" I felt the blood rush to my face. "Don't you dare turn this on me. You lied. You're having an affair." He stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. He towered over me, his face twisted with indignation. "You know why this happened? Because you stopped being a wife years ago. All you do is nag, complain, and make me feel like I'm never good enough. Rachel listens to me. She makes me feel alive again." The words cut through me like knives. For 25 years, I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, raised our daughter, supported his career, and now he stood there blaming me for his betrayal. Before I could even respond, Emily came downstairs. She was still groggy, in her sweatpants and oversized hoodie, her hair in a messy bun. She looked between us, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice cautious. David didn't miss a beat. He walked over to her, placed a hand on her shoulder, and sighed dramatically. "Your mom's upset because she doesn't trust me. She thinks I'm cheating on her." Her eyes widened and then turned to me. "Mom, please tell me that's not true. Please tell me you didn't go through Dad's things." My throat tightened. "Emily, it is true. I saw the messages. Your father has been lying to us." But instead of shock or anger at him, Emily's face hardened at me. "Mom, you've been suspicious of Dad for months. You've been picking fights with him, making him feel guilty for working late, accusing him without proof. Maybe you're just making things up in your head." The room spun. I looked at her, my daughter, my baby, the girl who used to crawl into my bed at night when she had nightmares. Now she was looking at me like I was the enemy. David squeezed her shoulder gently, playing the victim perfectly. "I stayed in this marriage for you, Emily. I didn't want you to grow up in a broken home, but sometimes your mom makes it impossible." Tears pricked my eyes. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her see the truth, but she pulled away from me, crossing her arms. "I can't deal with this right now. I have class." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there in the kitchen trembling as David smirked ever so slightly, just enough for me to see it before he turned his back. That was the moment I realized the affair wasn't just about him and Rachel. It was about control. He was poisoning Emily against me, turning my own daughter into his weapon. And I knew then my nightmare had only just begun. The days that followed were unbearable. Emily barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was clipped, impatient, almost hostile. She stopped joining me for our morning coffee talks. She avoided our late-night chats, and every time I tried to bring up David's affair, she rolled her eyes and walked away. I'd catch her whispering with him in the kitchen, the two of them laughing as if nothing was wrong. Sometimes, when I entered the room, the laughter would stop immediately, and the silence that followed felt like a knife twisting in my chest. One evening, I overheard them. I was walking past Emily's bedroom when I heard her say, "Dad, don't worry. I know Mom's just being dramatic. She always blows things out of proportion. I'm on your side." My knees almost buckled. My own daughter, the child I carried for 9 months, the girl whose scraped knees I kissed, whose tears I wiped, whose future I'd poured my heart into, was standing with the man who betrayed me. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the wedding photo on the dresser. David in his tuxedo, me in my white dress, Emily just a little girl holding my bouquet in her tiny hands. I whispered to the photo, "How did we get here?" But the answer came a few days later when the situation exploded. I had tried to sit Emily down, tried to explain everything calmly. "Sweetheart, you need to understand. Your father is not the man you think he is. He's lying to both of us." But she snapped before I could even finish. "Mom, stop it. You're obsessed. Do you even hear yourself? Dad has been nothing but good to us. You're just bitter and insecure because he still has people who admire him and you don't." Her words hit me harder than any slap could have. I stared at her, speechless, as she continued. "You've spent your whole life playing the victim. Maybe if you had appreciated him instead of constantly nagging, he wouldn't have needed to find someone else." I gasped. "Emily, do you even hear what you're saying? You're justifying your father cheating on me?" Her face was cold, her arms crossed. "I'm saying maybe you should look in the mirror before blaming everyone else for your problems." David walked in then, right on cue, pretending to be the calm one. He put an arm around her shoulder and sighed. "Enough, both of you. Karen, stop dragging Emily into this. She doesn't need to be caught in the middle of your paranoia." Paranoia. That's what he called it. As if the texts I read, the cologne he wore, the lies he told, as if all of it were just inventions of my imagination. And Emily believed him. That night, when I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my chest burning with a mixture of grief and rage. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone in my own home. My husband betrayed me, and my daughter, my only child, stood against me. But something else began to grow inside me too. A fire, a determination. I realized that if I let David control the narrative, if I let him twist Emily against me, I would lose everything. I couldn't allow that. So I made myself a promise. I would find proof, undeniable, unshakable proof of his lies. I would open Emily's eyes. I would make her see the truth, no matter how painful it was. And when that moment came, David would regret ever underestimating me. Once I made that promise to myself, I started paying closer attention. Every movement David made, every conversation Emily had with him, every phone call he tried to take outside, I noticed it all. If they thought I was weak, they were wrong. I began quietly checking our finances, something I had never really done before. For years, David had managed everything: the bills, the investments, even Emily's college fund. He always told me, "Don't worry, Karen, I've got it under control. You just focus on the house and Emily." I thought it was love. Now I realized it was control. At first, everything looked normal: mortgage, utilities, groceries. But then I saw something strange: large withdrawals, sometimes thousands of dollars, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. It happened often, every few weeks. My stomach dropped. I wrote down the account number and did some digging. It wasn't hard. After 25 years of marriage, I knew enough about his habits and passwords to find out more. And that's when I found it. The account was connected to Rachel. He wasn't just cheating with her, he was funding her life. Lavish trips to Miami, expensive handbags, hotel bookings in New York, even payments for her car. tens of thousands of dollars. Money that should have been for Emily's education. Money that belonged to our family. I felt sick. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the papers. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, he was robbing us blind. But the worst part, the part that made my blood boil, was when I saw a transaction linked to Emily's college savings account. He had pulled from her fund, the account we had built since she was a baby, and used it to spoil Rachel. My vision blurred with tears. He had looked our daughter in the eye, told her he was the good parent, the one who cared for her, while stealing from her future to impress another woman. I stayed awake, rehearsing in my mind how I would tell Emily. But I knew I had to be careful. If I just showed her bank statements, David would twist it again, claim I was manipulating her. No, I needed something undeniable, something even he couldn't talk his way out of. So, I waited. It wasn't long before I got my chance. One Saturday afternoon, David left his laptop open in the office, rushing out to take a phone call. My heart pounded as I slipped inside and scrolled through his emails, and there it was. A chain of messages between him and Rachel where he bragged about paying off her credit card with Emily's fund money. He even joked that Emily was too naive to notice. I copied everything. Emails, bank transfers, hotel reservations. I made a folder, backed it up, printed hard copies. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of power return to me. But instead of confronting him right away, I played the long game. I smiled at him during dinner. I let Emily roll her eyes at me and side with him. I pretended to shrink back into silence. Because deep down, I knew, when the truth finally came out, it would destroy him. And that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, "Soon, David. Soon she'll see you for who you really are." What I didn't realize, though, was that the moment I revealed the truth, my world would shatter in ways I wasn't prepared for. The day came sooner than I expected. Emily and I were sitting in the living room when David walked in, grinning, holding takeout bags, like nothing in the world was wrong. He was whistling, humming, smiling, and I realized just how much he enjoyed this little game of his. He thought he had won. That was the moment I decided it was time. "Emily," I said calmly, "I need to show you something." David froze. His smile faltered, and his eyes darted towards me like daggers. "Karen, don't start." His voice was sharp, warning. But I stood up, walked to the cabinet, and pulled out the thick folder I had prepared, the emails, the bank statements, the proof. My hands no longer trembled. I was steady, cold. I placed the folder on the coffee table and slid it toward Emily. "Read it." She frowned, confused, flipping through the pages. Her eyes moved quickly, scanning line after line. At first, she looked annoyed, as if she expected to find nothing. But then, her face changed. Her lips parted, her brows knitted together, her eyes widened. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "What is this?" David moved forward, trying to grab the papers. "Emily, don't listen to your mother. She's twisting things. But she yanked the folder away, holding it to her chest. "You used my college fund?" Her voice cracked, raw with disbelief. "You gave my money to her?" The color drained from David's face. For the first time, he was speechless. Emily's voice rose, trembling with fury. "You lied to me. You told me Mom was making things up, that she was bitter or insecure. And all this time, you were stealing from me, from your own daughter?" He reached out to her, but she backed away, tears streaming down her face. "Don't touch me. Don't you ever touch me again." She turned to me then, her eyes full of guilt and pain. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. I thought I pulled her into my arms, holding her as she sobbed against my shoulder. For the first time in months, I felt my daughter was mine again. David stood there, defeated, his hands shaking. "Karen, we can work this out." I looked at him, and for the first time in